Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 66 based on novel. So let's start. When the first ray of morning light fell on the earth, the continent, which had been silent all night, became noisy again. Outside the wild ancient city, on the top of a mountain, two figures sitting facing the face plate opened their eyes at the same time. In a short time, the two invisible lines burst out of their dark eyes, slammed into each other in the void between them, and made a dull bang. The corners of Xiao Yang's mouth went up and aroused a faint smile. These 10 days, he didn't dare to relax. He kept running in with some discomfort brought by Tianjueba's promotion. 10 days later, today is exactly the day when Xiao Yang announced that he would hold an auction 10 days ago. As the organizer of the auction, Xiao Yang naturally cannot be absent. With a wave, the avatar in front of me dispersed with the wind. After a long time of polishing, coupled with Xiao Yang's soul power, the strength of this incarnation has reached the middle stage of 1.5 emperors. Although there is still a gap from 2.5 emperors, it has been a very good growth for the incarnation who can't cultivate independently. Xiao Yang got up slowly and moved his muscles and bones slightly. During the twisting of his body, Xiao Yang could even hear the sound of the collision of bones in his body clearly. The crisp sound made Xiao Yang feel comfortable. This feeling has never been tried for a long time. Hey, boy, if you sell all the empty thunder pool posts you have now, I'm afraid it will be a lot of wealth. Xiao Yang got up, but Jiu, who had been silent in his body, suddenly joked at the moment. Hey, why, Jiu Laro is also interested in this thunder post. Shall I sell you one? Xiao Yang also smiled when he heard the speech, and a treacherous smile appeared on his face. His tone was malicious. Jiu turned a big white eye at Xiao Yang at the bottom of his heart and immediately said with a smile, "Smelly boy, my little mind hit me. All right, let's go. You'll be happy when the time comes." Xiao Yang smiled, took back his mind, raised his eyes and looked at the vague outline of the city at the end of his sight. In today's wild ancient city, it is much more lively than usual. The streets with surging heads are even more crowded today. Especially outside the Tianyun auction house in the center of the city, there is a sea of people at the moment. Although it is still early, it is more lively than the most lively noon in the city. Needless to say, most of these people came to Xiao Yang's empty thunder pool. This kind of scene, even the iron armor bodyguard who maintained order at the door of the auction house, couldn't help feeling very surprised. Such an eye-catching scene has not appeared several times in the past auctions. I'm afraid this auction will become the largest auction in a century because of Xiao Yang. Whoosh! Outside the noisy auction, a sharp breaking wind like an eagle's cry suddenly sounded, which also attracted the eyes of a large crowd below. After the breaking wind, a figure dressed in black appeared at the entrance of the auction house. As soon as they saw this person, their face changed instantly. When the armored guard at the entrance saw the visitor, the words he wanted to spit were also stopped quickly. His face changed and he bowed respectfully to the black-robed figure in front of him. I've seen the elder rock owl. With Xiao Yang's current reputation, 9 out of 10 people in the wild ancient city have seen his face, and these people around Xiao Yang are no exception. The 2 iron guards guarding the door were personally instructed by the owner of the auction house to treat Xiao Yang respectfully without any disrespect. Facing the respectful attitude of the 2 people in front of him, Xiao Yang nodded and smiled. He responded to them. He knew that this was their duty, so he didn't pay more attention. He turned slowly with his back to the crowd and glanced at the crowd in front of him. When he saw the hot eyes of the people in front of him, Xiao Yang also smiled. He was also very satisfied with this effect. Hehe, thank you for coming to the thunder auction I held at Tianyun auction house. At this auction, I will take out 6 empty thunder pool posts. At that time, it depends on who will spend these thunder post. Wow dash. Xiao Yang's words made the whole audience in an uproar. 6 empty thunder pool posts. These people originally thought that even if Xiao Yang gained a lot in those 5 days, he also got several thunder posts, but even if he added his own one, it was only 5 at most. But from the meaning of Xiao Yang's words at the moment, if he has left one for himself, that is to say, there are 7 empty thunder pool posts on Xiao Yang at the moment. 7. This is a quarter of the total number of empty minefield post. It's really hard to imagine. It's hard to find the void thunder pool post. At this moment, there are 7 in the hands of the 3-star semi-emperor in front of them. Ha ha. Brother Yang Xiao came early, but I noticed your breath from a long distance. However, just when everyone was shocked by Xiao Yang's Lei Tai, A burst of laughter like thunder suddenly came from the heaven and earth. Hearing this heroic laughter, Xiao Yang also withdrew his eyes, looked up to the sky, and said with the same laughter, "Brother Song is not too late. The time is just right. I'm going to prepare some things first." Ha ha ha. Xiao Yang's voice fell, but a figure suddenly swept out of the sky. The soles of the figure suddenly stepped on the void, and the terrible pressure suddenly fell from the sky, making many people in the field look dignified at the moment. The light flashed, and the figure had appeared beside Xiao Yang. What appeared was an old man with white hair. A square face and a word eyebrow added a bit of domineering to it. A pair of muddy old eyes showed the ancient meaning of vicissitudes, and on the wrinkled old face, a rough smile was showing at the moment, looking at Xiao Yang. The old man's name is Song Gang. He is the manager of the Tianyun auction house branch in the wild ancient city. He is also a famous man in the wild ancient city, and his strength is not weak. He is a strong man in the middle of the 8-star and half emperor period, comparable to Jiyu Lishuan. Seeing the unique smile on Xiao Yang's face, Xiao Yang couldn't help but smoke at the corners of his mouth. Then he hurried back to normal, arched his hands and said with a smile, "Hee, Brother Song." Song Gang smiled and nodded. Ignoring the frightened eyes behind him, he smiled at Xiao Yang. Hey, Brother Yang Xiao, I heard you clearly just now. No matter what I asked you before, you didn't say. Unexpectedly, there are 7 empty thunder pool posts on you. Tut. I don't know how many people will be jealous. Xiao Yang smiled again when he heard the speech and said, "Hey, Brother Song is right. These things will be a disaster sooner or later. That's why I quickly asked Brother for help in the auction after I got them." Hearing the flattery in Xiao Yang's words, Song Gang couldn't help laughing. Xiao Yang's words were quite useful to him. Ha, okay, I won't say much. In a word, Brother Yang Xiao can safely give me those things. I promise I will sell a good price for Brother Yang Xiao. Xiao Yang smiled again at Song Gang when he heard the speech. His eyes narrowed and said, "Well, I'll thank Brother Song first." In the face of such unscrupulous businessmen, Xiao Yang has taken precautions. Although Song Gang is good to himself and has an extremely enthusiastic attitude towards Xiao Yang, it also aroused Xiao Yang's cautious heart. Ha. Old Song Tu, it seems that you have a good chat with the little friend of Rock Owl. Ha. However, just when Xiao Yang's heart was wary of Song Gang, there was another heroic laugh from the horizon. When Xiao Yang heard the familiar voice, his eyebrows trembled. Listening to this voice, at the moment, this person is undoubtedly the Shenlaro of Union Pavilion. Listening to the meaning of the words, Shenlaro seemed to have a rather unusual relationship with Song Gang around him. Xiao Yang suddenly thought that no wonder Song Gang was so enthusiastic about him. Is it all because of the coming Shenlaro? Or is that behind him? You old man, why do you deliberately take advantage of me? Before people arrived, the vast voice of words resounded through the sky like thunder. After hearing it, Song Gang made a cold hiss and looked up at the sky. This sentence came out, not only Xiao Yang and the people around him, but also Shenlao, who had not even arrived at the edge of the sky, couldn't help picking his eyebrows immediately, and couldn't help wondering in his heart, where did he start? Don't pretend, old boy. You should also know that Brother Yang Xiao is not inferior to you and me in all his combat power, so I even call him brother, but you still have to call him a little friend. It's not deliberately taking advantage of me. As soon as he said this, all the people present were stunned and looked at each other. Although they wanted to sneer, they were still choked in their stomach at the thought of the person who said this. Only Xiao Yang, who stood beside Song Gang at the moment, couldn't help laughing. Unexpectedly, Song Gang, who seemed quite bold and unrestrained, would care so much about these trivial things. On the horizon, old Shen couldn't help smiling and crying when he heard Song Gang's words. He was also quite helpless for Song Gang. The old man, how can he still have such a temperament? He managed the auction house alone for so many years, but he still failed to change his temperament. It seems that there is no hope in his life. He whispered a sentence in his mouth. Shen Laro was too lazy to pay attention to it. He turned his eyes and looked at Luo Jin beside him. The latter also turned his eyes. They looked at each other and smiled. Then they shook their heads and flew down. The two flew down, and Song Gang below was still spitting at Shenlaro angrily, but when he saw Luo Jin following Shenlaro behind him, he just spit out his mouth like a machine gun, which was bigger than an umbrella, and the voice in his mouth suddenly stopped. After a while, a cold sweat fell slowly from Song Gang's forehead, while Luo Jin looked at the former with a light smile without any action. At this moment, seeing this scene in the field, Shen Laro couldn't help laughing. He looked at Song Gang as if he were looking at a child who had made a mistake. This is. Seeing this, Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows in surprise and looked at Luo Jin. The latter smiled slightly and whispered to Xiao Yang and said with a smile, "You can even accept such a terrible fire. I just accept a man. What's so surprising?" Xiao Yang smiled bitterly when he heard the speech. He really received the strange fire, but he didn't take his life to collect some of his strange fire. Compared with Luo Jin, Xiao Yang suffered too much. In this regard, Shen Laro was also helpless to smile. Others didn't know. He naturally knew that Song Gang was not afraid of heaven all day. At the beginning, even Luo Laro talked to him. He contradicted him, but Luo Jin obeyed him, so that Song Gang felt a thrill when he saw him. This is why he didn't follow Luo Jin, but the main reason for managing the auction house. Hey, that. Song Gang looked at Luo Jin. People who didn't know him thought he was looking at Shen Laro. After all, few people would care more about Xuanlao's weak boy with only 1.5-star emperor behind him. Old man Song. Song Gang wanted to speak, but Shen Laro narrowed his eyes and stared at the former. He shook his head slightly. As soon as he spoke, Song Gang quickly responded. He smiled and rubbed his hands slightly embarrassed, and wanted to welcome several people into the auction house. However, after an instant, when Song Gang wanted to take several people into the auction house, several people with sufficient strength were present, but their faces suddenly changed, their bodies turned, and their dignified eyes instantly shot into the northern sky. Shen Laro, several people looked dignified, their eyes almost narrowed into a thin line, and their sharp eyes stared at the northern sky. They clearly realized that there was an extremely terrible smell approaching them. As for Xiao Yang, whose soul power has entered the later stage of the empire, he is naturally aware of this, and under his perception, the content he is aware of is far more than what Shenlaro people have detected. The terrible soul power moved with Xiao Yang's mind. In an instant, it shrouded most of the wild ancient city. Under the shadow of its soul power, several figures on the northern horizon also reflected in Xiao Yang's eyes. There are 4 people on this trip, and among the 4, except the first old man, the other 3 are Mo Zhai, Yang Bing and Hu Leoge, who have already met with Xiao Yang. Zhong Hao's figure is not among them. Perhaps because of his strength, Yang Bing didn't take him with him. Based on Xiao Yang's understanding of Mo Zhai, these 3 people naturally can't attract Xiao Yang's too much attention, but Xiao Yang's face suddenly becomes dignified when his soul power sweeps over the chief old man. Under the perception of the soul power in the later period of Emperor Xiao Yang's realm, the breath of the first old man has reached an extremely terrible level, which is far higher than that of Shenlaro and others, and even Yang Bing, who is beside him, is far inferior. This breath. The old man is actually a 9.5-star emperor. Xiao Yang has never seen the strong man fighting the emperor. Most of the Shenling people in the spirit world are at this level. Therefore, Xiao Yang is familiar with the breath of the real strong man fighting the emperor. At present, although the breath of the old man is terrible and surpasses the 8.5-star emperor, it is far from the level of fighting the emperor. Therefore, Xiao Yang believes that this is a 9.5-star emperor. The soul power in the later period of emperor territory. Unexpectedly, you are young, but your attainments in soul are not shallow, but it seems to be aware of the exploration of Xiao Yang's soul power. On the way, the old man turned his deep eyes directly to Xiao Yang at the entrance of the auction house below. Although the distance was far away, the old man's eyes fell on Xiao Yang at a glance, but his words were only half said, but the old man suddenly gave a cold hum. At the same time, a terrible soul storm, which was much stronger than Xiao Yang's soul power, suddenly swept across the void, bombarded the soul power of Xiao Yang. No. Aware of this, Xiao Yang was stunned and moved. He wanted to recover the spread soul power. But compared with Xiao Yang, the old man's speed is more terrible. Without Xiao Yang's response, the surging soul storm has pounded on the soul power spread by Xiao Yang. Bang! A low bang opened in the void, and Xiao Yang's soul power also recovered from his body, but his face also became white at this moment. His body shook, and his body withdrew a few steps backward uncontrollably. Then, he was supported by Luo Jin, who flashed over. Seeing Xiao Yang, whose face turned white in an instant, Luo Jin suddenly flashed a chill in his eyes. His eyes turned, and his icy eyes suddenly looked at the northern sky. At the end of his line of sight, a group of people came quickly. Before the entrance of the auction house, Song Gang was looking at the fuzzy shadows getting closer and closer in the northern sky. What's the matter? The old boy Morjai, how can he be with him? The most important thing is, how did he come here? In the past, He was a man who didn't go out of one door and two doors. Only people came to him. When did he come out in person? Xianlaro and Song Gang looked heavy. One stared at Mo Zhai, and the other hung all the questions in his heart on the old man. Is this the ghost of Mo Zhai? It's very possible that just now I noticed that there were two soul forces colliding with each other in the void, and then the rock owl was injured. It should be his hand to the rock owl, but it's hard to understand. Why did he shoot the rock owl? Mo Zhai can't give him anything. The two men stared at the approaching Mo Zhai and his party, and kept talking in a low voice. On the other side, Luo Jin, who helped Xiao Yang, frowned and said, "Don't think so much, as long as we know that they are coming for the rock owl." Mo Zhai really made things bigger and bigger this time. They have to make some small moves at the auction. Pay attention to them at that time. If necessary. Don't be polite to them. I see. Luo Jin's indifferent voice made Song Gang Er's face look positive. Although this man is a 9-star and a half-emperor, they are not afraid of him with their knowledge. Now Luo Jin has spoken, and they are naturally not afraid. "Oh, who am I? It used to be Master Mu. Why, you haven't asked about the world for many years. Now, you are interested in this void thunder pool post?" Seeing that the 4 people in the sky were about to fall down, they quickly wriggled in the crowded crowd, leaving a large open space under the 4 people. I'm kidding. The 4 people in front of me are all the people of the wild ancient city. Yang Bing and Hu Leoge are all 8.5 stars. How dare they not let them? But after hearing Song Gang's indifferent words, people were looking at the confused eyes of the first old man among the 4 people, but they suddenly changed at the next moment, and a deep color of fear poured out of their eyes. How many people will not know the name of Mu Shur in this wild ancient city? Wild double bully, he is one of them. At that time, the already crowded crowd quickly stirred up, and their eyes to Mo Zhai were full of surprise. Especially when the eyes of the public fell on Mu Han, their hearts became extremely dignified. Hearing the voice of Song Gang's words, Mu Han raised his eyes slightly, and his deep eyes went straight ahead like a sharp sword. But in the face of this fierce look, Song Gang was not moved at all and ignored it directly. The original Song Gang, but even Luo Leodu had contradicted the characters. Although there was a lot of water in them, at the moment, the Mu Han in front of him only made him feel a pressure at most. It was too bad to suppress him with momentum. When he saw this, he saw the old man squint. Simultaneous interpreting the song's temper, he heard something about him. His temper was extremely hot. Few people could suppress it. But seeing it was not enough. I'm not sure what I'm interested in. Now, I just ask, when does the auction start? Mu Han sneered and asked Song Gang coldly, while his eyes looked at Xiao Yang with a white face. At the same time, a Senleng smile flashed across his mouth, but a startling killing intention flashed across his eyes. Xiao Yang, who was badly hurt at the moment, didn't notice the matter in an instant. But Luo Jin, who noticed this, looked at Song Gang with his eyes narrowed, and a dark light flashed across his eyes. Song Gang, who had been paying attention to Luo Jin, immediately understood, then gave a cold hum and said to Mu Han again, "Master Mu, you come to the auction. I really don't need to ask any more, but you hurt the organizer of the auction. I have to take care of it. Oh, I don't like to be watched by others." The boy was completely to blame just now. Facing Song Gang's Senleng words, Mu Han sneered and didn't take it to heart at all, but then Mu Han turned his eyes to Xiao Yang and said with a slightly surprised tone, "However, he also surprised me. A mere 3-star and half-emperor was able to raise his soul power to the later stage of the empire. This is indeed his capital among ordinary half-emperors, but it's better to put it away in front of me. Mu Han, as a 9-star and a half-emperor, has absolute strength to suppress here. Although Song Gang has a hot temper, it can't make him fight with Mu Han. In the field at the moment, Mu Han has an absolute right to speak, and it is for this reason that he will show his disdain for Xiao Yang in front of him. The strength is strong enough for him to crush anyone." When Luo Jin saw this scene, even if there was a group of anger in his heart, he helped Xiao Yang's palm to loosen slightly, and wanted to go forward. He and Xiao Yang had already hit it off. Although they didn't know each other for a long time, the friendship between them was very deep. Now Xiao Yang has something to do, how can he sit idly by? Song Gang and Xian Laoben on one side always pay attention to Luo Jin. At the moment, they want to appear when they see him. Their faces change slightly and look at each other, but they are silent at last. But just as Luo Jin was preparing to take the shot, Xiao Yang, who had just swallowed the pill and his face recovered, pulled the former's arm, shook his head and stopped Luo Jin's body. "Let him go. I didn't expect that his soul power would be so terrible. The result is really caused by my recklessness. As for him hurting me, Xiao Yang whispered to Luo Jin secretly, and the latter gradually calmed down. He just looked at Xiong Mu Han's eyes and still had an indelible cold. At the end of the voice, Xiao Yang took a deep breath and stared at Mu Han with his eyes narrowed. Then he said coldly in his heart, "In the future, you will be able to repay in full." With a cold voice in his heart, Xiao Yang showed a helpless smile on his face, looked around for a week, and said in a weak voice, "Ha ha. I'm really reckless, but now that everyone is here, I think I'd better enter the auction house first." Cough. At this point, Xiao Yang coughed violently for a while. Then he smiled again with a weak look on his face. "After all of you are here for the auction today. You can't affect the whole auction process because of these small episodes. Ha ha, I say yes." At the end of the voice, Xiao Yang set his eyes on Mo Zhai. In a pair of slightly blurred pupils, it seemed quiet, as if nothing had happened. Seeing this scene, even Song Gang and Shen Laro on the other side couldn't help showing a suspicious look. From Xiao Yang's appearance, it didn't look like they were pretending. Luo Jin, who is beside him, is constantly changing his complexion, and Xiao Yang, who is more shocked in his heart. Indeed, Xiao Yang at the moment, no matter how he looks, is a deeply injured look, and even the breath in his body is a disorder. But who can know that Xiao Yang's palm holding Luo Jin's arm under his sleeve robe is shaking sharply and slightly. In Tianyun auction house, at this moment, Xiao Yang and Luo Jin are sitting in a VIP room. There are empty walls on all sides. The heavy stone gate blocks the only exit here. In the whole secret room, only a few pearls embedded in the wall emit soft fluorescence and illuminate the whole secret room. Because the building materials of the whole auction house are special and what kind of prohibition is imposed by the strong, any breath and soul perception will be prohibited here. In short, after entering here, as long as you cover your body and face, no one will recognize you. Of course, all this is also under the premise of certain strength. If a strong fighter enters it, relying on the terror of strength, it can naturally ignore those prohibitions. At this time, Xiao Yang's face had already dispersed his previous weak appearance. Although his cheeks were still a little pale, it was much better than his previous appearance. The body is sitting on the stone chair. Xiao Yang's normal calm look is scattered on his face at the moment. The slightly wrinkled eyebrows and the pair of cold twinkling eyes show his inner restlessness at the moment. 9.5 Emperor, Xiao Yang clearly knows that the old man who came into contact with him outside the auction will become another great enemy of him from today on. He didn't mean to provoke right and wrong, but somehow, someone always felt bad with him. The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind doesn't stop. Who? After pouring a mouthful of mellow tea, Xiao Yang took a long breath, narrowed his eyes, stared at the soft light reflected from the teacup, and remained silent. When Luo Jin saw this, he drank the tea in the cup as if he were thinking. Then he turned his eyes and smiled at Xiao Yang. "Brother Yang Xiao almost deceived me just now." Xiao Yang frowned and smiled. He shook his head with a slight sense of self-mockery, looked at Luo Jin and asked, "The old man just now, you call him Musha. Who is he?" Luo Jin had expected Xiao Yang's question for a long time, and immediately did not hesitate too much. He frowned slightly and said, "Master Mu, this is the respected name of people in the wild ancient city. His original name is Mu Han. He is a 9.5 Emperor. You should have noticed that his strength is the strongest in the wild ancient city except Luo Laro." Xiao Yang nodded secretly. The 9.5 Emperor is indeed enough to dominate in this wild ancient city, but there is another question in Xiao Yang's heart. Moreover, in addition, Mu Han is the only third-order array mage on the southwest border. The question in Xiao Yang's heart hasn't been said yet, but Luo Jin immediately said it. Once the words were exported, Xiao Yang was surprised. At the same time, he no longer questioned his judgment. Sure enough, no wonder his soul power is so terrible. I see. His soul power has really stepped into the realm of unity. Xiao Yang frowns. The 9.5 Emperor's Mu Han is not what he can cope with now. Anyway, he is only a 3.5 Emperor after all. Even if he breaks through the 4-star, the gap between strength cannot be easily recovered. If you face Mu Han alone, Xiao Yang will have no chance of winning. Even if Chanjueba has now stepped into the realm of wind, Dacheng. The 9.5 Emperor is definitely not comparable to Yang Bing. That's the truth. Thinking of this, Xiao Yang's eyes were cold. Mo Zhai did everything to deal with him this time. Even this guy who might turn around and devour him at any time dared to use it. It's not difficult to imagine how much Mo Zhai hated Xiao Yang. Of course, it can't be ruled out that it's simply for Xiao Yang's different fire. Maybe killing Xiao Yang is his incidental idea. Mo Zhai. It's okay if you leave after the medicine refining master's meeting, but you keep asking me for trouble and insist on making trouble with me. Since you have to make trouble with me until you die, you can't blame me for being cruel. Bang! The voice fell, and the teacup in Xiao Yang's hand burst and turned into a piece of dust. Next, you should prepare things for the auction. Just now Song Gang told me that you should auction 6 empty minefield posts this time. Tut tut, unprecedented in history. Feeling that the indoor atmosphere was becoming more and more depressed, Luo Jindang even made a voice to change the topic and ridiculed Xiao Yang by the way. Hehe, just good luck. Xiao Yang knew Luo Jin's intention. At present, he also smiled knowingly. As soon as his palm turned over, a prepared ring appeared in his palm. The things in this ring are all the items I want to auction this time. Although I didn't give them to the auction house in advance, I want to tell the quality and value with their ability. Luo Jin nodded slightly. He was surprised at Xiao Yang's high prudence. Before he knew the relationship between Song Gang and Luo Jin, Xiao Yang was able to guard against strangers to such an extent. Compared with him, Xiao Yang really looked much older. It is reasonable to be cautious to stand out among many practitioners at such an age and have extraordinary experience. After all, before you really know the details of the other party, no matter how sincere the other party's attitude is, you must not easily believe it. Otherwise, it is likely to bring irreparable disaster to yourself. Kaka. While they were talking, the heavy stone door was opened, and they looked at it. The figures of Song Gang and Shen Laro had appeared at the door of the secret room. All right? Xiao Yang asked casually. The auction attracted a lot of forces. Even the number of semi-emperor strong people was unimaginable. Therefore, when Xiao Yang and Song Gang entered the auction house, Shen Laro went to manage the order in the auction house together. It was an hour. Well, they finally settled down those guys. Before they sat down, they were eager to see the Void Thunder Pool post quickly, but fortunately, we 2 old guys were there and had activities with them, so we were honest. Hearing Song Gang's awkward words, Xiao Yang frowned slightly. Luo Jin, who knew the former's temperament, had no choice but to shake his head. Shen Laro also turned his mouth, indicating that he was very helpless. When Xiao Yang saw the reaction of several people, he also quickly reacted. I'm afraid he didn't do less about this so-called activity. Hey. Seeing the helpless eyes of several people, Song Gang also smiled, then straightened his face and said, but now, in terms of time, it has passed the time originally scheduled to start the auction. At present, I'm afraid there's no time to make more preparations. In this regard, Xiao Yang secretly curled his lips in his heart and passed the time. I'm afraid that most of these times are consumed by your fight. It doesn't matter. My things here are ready, and I have listed the auction order. At that time, just let the people of the auction house make an appraisal on the spot and auction directly. Hearing the speech, several people nodded one after another. Xiao Yang's practice also saved some trouble for their auction house. In this way, there is no need to delay the process of the auction. Xiao Yang handed the ring to Song Gang. Because Song Gang just got the ring, Song Gang didn't know how many things Xiao Yang wanted to auction, so he naturally explored it. But after Song Gang explored, his face suddenly showed a surprised look, and the muscles at the corners of his mouth couldn't help twitching violently. Under his exploration, there are many kinds of items in the ring. I'm afraid they add up to no less than 100. Combined with the number of each item, if the auction is really completed, it will be at least millions of spiritual coins according to the value of these things. Moreover, the value of these things surprised Song Gang. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang would take out so many natural and earth treasures. Some of them, even him, only heard his name but did not see his shape. Now, Song Gang's heart can't help feeling a little touched. These things can really be called big money. It's hard to imagine that Xiao Yang would auction these things. It's good to say that Xiao Yang can't use them, but how can he imagine if he despises them? This video will end here.